It's so easy for us to confess to our phones more than it is to confess to the people in our life. But, you know, our phone cannot heal us. Our phone cannot set us free. Our phone cannot, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like the Spirit of God is in people, not on Facebook, not on Instagram. And God uses social media in amazing ways. But I knew specifically in this moment, the Lord was like, there's a part of your healing that's going to come from you opening up your mouth and confessing what you're walking through.
So Jess started going to counseling, and to me it was a big deal, just the fact that she was got to a place where she wanted to go and she wanted to talk to someone about it. Because I think it's a lot of times like you feel like it's like this weird thing where people think counseling is just for like crazy people, or 100%. But at the end of the day, like counseling, I think counseling is great. Even if like you don't have anything going on in your life, I think counseling is a good thing to do, and I encourage just people to do it.
To be quite honest, I was always open to counseling, especially because I had...
See, I thought you weren't.
No, I was. Not necessarily counseling about this subject.
Oh, yeah, I get
but
you.
I was
Never mind.
very open to counseling. But, like, obviously, you can make the appointment and all the things, but the day of... I was low-key, like...
Nervous?
Yes. Like, I was extremely nervous. I was literally on YouTube, how to prepare for your first counseling session.
We YouTube everything in the Gilroy household.
Yes, we do. And I genuinely was like, how is this going to go? Like, I don't know this person. This person doesn't know me. Like, how do I even express to this person, like, everything about my life? Because it's all so layered and all the things.
Did you feel like you had to spill everything out on the first time?
Well... kind of, because I was like, I don't want her
context
to give me advice that doesn't apply to me because she didn't know me. You know what I'm saying? So obviously the first time I went, just nervous, but y'all, when I say it was incredible, I just remember, you know, we were doing small talk at first, and one of the questions she ended up asking me as I kind of shared my life and my journey, she asked me, what did I feel like the theme of my life was? And I mean, I never get asked questions like that. So
great question.
I was, and you know me, I love questions. Intentional questions are my favorite. And so she asked, like, what do you feel like the theme of your life is? And I answered, I was like, I feel like the theme of my life would be perseverance. And I just went down the line. Like, I just, you know, I grew up with, you know, my father leaving us. I grew up, you know, with a single mom. I grew up in an environment where my mom ended up passing away unexpectedly, went through a ton of insecurities, like so many things. Infertility, I was just like, no matter what, like, I just can't quit. Like, something in me doesn't allow me to stop. And she allowed me to keep on going, just telling her about my journey, about my life. And towards the end of our first session, she looks at me and she says, would you mind me telling you what I think the theme of your life is?
Please tell us what you
and
think
I'm like,
is.
You just have been with me 40 minutes and you think you know. But I was like, bet, like, what do you think the theme of my life is? She looks at me straight in the eyes and she says, I believe the theme of your life is grief.
That's something you want to hear?
No.
Okay, I'm making sure I went tripping.
She's
okay.
like, I feel like your life is a series of moments and times where you should have grieved, but you never did. And immediately I felt like it was true, but I didn't know what that meant. And that's what I left. And so I remember telling Rand all of this, and he's just like, whoa, like, okay. And I knew, just even from my counselor telling me, like, I want to walk with you through what biblical grief looks like. And I'll be honest with you, I went, and she even knew this, with the intentions of, I told her, infertility is why I'm here. I'm here because infertility is hard, but I don't feel like I have to forfeit being healthy just because I'm walking through a hard season. I feel like I could still be healthy even though this is just so difficult. And I'll tell you what, for the first 3 months of me going to counseling, we did not talk one time about infertility. Matter of fact, for the first 3 months, we were uncovering things and traumas and moments that, to be quite honest, I was put under a rug and never addressed. And it's so interesting because, of course, I went to a spirit-filled Christian counselor, and there were moments as I was in sessions that I felt the presence of God stronger, that just as if I was in a service, like where, you know, the Spirit of God is in the room. I felt like His Spirit in the room. I felt revelations. I felt the Lord breaking through moments that I didn't even know needed to be broken through. And every time I would come home and tell Ren, and I remember the moment that I realized this is powerful, because he looked at me and he said, Jess, I've never seen you tend to yourself the way you're tending to yourself. This is the way you walk with other people. This is the way you focus on other people. But for the first time, you're doing that to yourself.
It is true. Like, Jess does a great job of, and of course, it comes with, I guess, like the calling. It comes with, don't just say just a job, but pastoring people and walking with people. A lot of times, especially in ministry, the person that you can forget to take care of is yourself, because you're constantly pouring out. You're constantly just go, taking care of people. But at the end of the day, your health matters, your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health. It's so important. Yeah. And if you go just long periods of time without just taking care of that, I'm not gonna say it can't, it will affect you. And so it was just really cool, kind of like proud husband moment, watching her just kind of take care of herself, because she's good at taking care of other people and helping other people, but I think at times she just can neglect to take care of herself in areas. And so it was just really cool just watching her walk through that.
You're talking about me like I'm not right here.
Talk about her.
You're so sweet. So simultaneously, as I am like genuinely healing, every time I'm spending time with the Lord in private, I hear Him speaking direction to me, and He keeps saying, "Share your testimony, share your testimony." And I'm gonna be honest with you, probably like the first 3 times I heard it, I just like completely ignored it. I was like, what does that mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm gonna be honest, I just did not, like really investigate. But one day I spent time with the Lord, and I just was like, okay, like let's figure out, what is He talking about? Share your testimony. Like, so I just remember investigating with God, like, what are you asking? And of course I started feeling Him start mentioning things about infertility. And I was like, at this point, I was probably the strongest I had felt, just with all the work that I had been working in counseling and just even in private, in the secret with the Lord. Obviously, everything was still difficult, but just felt very strong, and just remember responding to the Lord like, bet, like I would love to share the testimony. I cannot wait until I do talk to the Lord like that. I can't wait until I have this precious baby in my hands, and I will tell everyone of your goodness, because at this point, like, I was not doubting Him. I knew He was. I just didn't know how, and I just didn't know when. And I even, forfeited all of that. Like, God, I'm not gonna, try to pretend like I know how. I'm not gonna pretend like I know when. I just know You will. And so yeah, like my response was like, I will do it. I will share of the goodness of God. I can't wait till You do it. I will do it. And I just remember Him stopping me and saying, you can do that if you want, and it will be great. But He was saying, if you wait until I come through, it won't carry nearly as much weight as if you telling your story now in the process.
Wow.
And of course, that's not what I wanted to hear at all. But I immediately knew what He was saying is like, don't wait. Like, now is the time, which, of course, like he would say something like that, but I knew my flesh, and I knew I didn't want to do it. My first thought was like social media, but the thing is I had actually taken a year off of social media, and the year wasn't up. Just with everything going on, I was really trying to focus and being present in my healing, and so I didn't want to be distracted, and so I wasn't on social media. And I felt the Lord say, no, like that's the easy route for you, to go tell everybody on social media. You need to go with the people in your community and confess what's been going on in your life. And I really did not want to hear that.
Why you want to hear that, Jess?
Oh my gosh, because I mean, and it's so funny. I preach it to people all the time, you know, but it's so easy for us to confess to our phones more than it is to confess to the people in our life. But, you know, our phone cannot heal us. Our phone cannot set us free. Our phone cannot, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like the Spirit of God is in people, not on Facebook, not on Instagram. And God uses social media in amazing ways. But I knew specifically in this moment, the Lord was like, there's a part of your healing that's going to come from you opening up your mouth and confessing what you're walking through. And so I just remember going on a journey as the Spirit of God led me and confessing to the people in my life. From that moment, it was like a domino effect. And the Lord kept literally leading me to moments to share. Every moment I spoke it, it was like the enemy had less and less power over me, which is so true, because anything in the dark is Satan's territory. Yeah. So every time you bring it to the light, it literally, his authority and all the power that we have literally given him gets taken right back. And that's what I felt like was happening.
So I hadn't told anybody. I don't know if it's like guys, we really usually don't talk about that at the gym. Like, hey, in between like sets of bench press, hey, also me and my wife, we walking through infertility. I feel like there's never like a good time to bring it up, I guess. Like, how do you bring it up? And I could be completely wrong. Comment down below. Let me know, how would you have brought it up? But it's something that I think it should be talked about, like, especially amongst men. Like, we don't really communicate with stuff like that. I think we talk about the good, we talk about sports, etc., but like stuff that is like affecting our lives, our family, our marriage, I think it's almost like we wait until like, oh snap, like it's bad kind of situation. And so I didn't necessarily share it. Like I didn't know like how to bring it up. I don't know. It was especially hard too, because feeling like I wouldn't be seen, I guess, if that makes sense. Like if I bring this up, like, are there people who, I don't know if people can relate to this. I don't know if it's like even a thing. And so there was like, as if you were nervous about sharing it. For me, I think I was nervous too, because I didn't necessarily know like how it would get received, like just from, I guess, other people. So Jess I feel like both of us, we're probably at the best place that we have been at just throughout this entire journey, and we're ready just to make some more steps. And so we sought out just a fertility specialist,
which is a big deal, because we were taking it to a whole nother level. Right.
This is a big. When you go to a specialist, you're like, all right, like we're serious about this. And so we set up the appointment. Everything was great, and so they told us, hey, you got 2 options. Of course, they ran tests and everything before that.
And the big thing is, one of those tests that they took was like your initial, when you come into this fertility specialist, they give you a percentage. And basically that percentage is how likely you are, based off the results of this test, to get pregnant. And their goal in everything that we do in the plan that they make is to get your percentage up. Yeah. And so I remember doing the procedure. As they were going in, everything looks phenomenal. They're like, this looks great. This looks great. Matter of fact, one of the things they told us is that my egg reserve was higher than it should be at my age.
She could be an egg donor.
So I could literally be an egg donor, which this was just mind blowing to us, because every test that we take, we are like obviously getting not just good results, but amazing results of like, nothing's wrong. Actually, you're better than average. Yet we still can't get pregnant. So they're looking at our age, looking at how long we've been trying, looking at all these things. And basically our percentage of being able to get pregnant on our own was 1.5%. It's out of 100.
Not out of 10.
So immediately, like, I mean, I don't know if you just gulped, but that's what we did. We just was like, what? Like, you're telling me all these things are amazing, but like, this is our percentage, which is still mind-boggling to me. But then they tell us, okay, so you got a couple options.
Yeah, and so one of the options, I think it was 2 options, was IVF, and the other one was IUI. And then they were like, you probably don't have to do IVF. IUI should be fine for you. And of course, IVF is way more expensive. And so their goal was like, hey, we don't want you to have to do that, but that's kind of like the next step if this doesn't go. And so we'll do 3 rounds of IUI.
Like, basically, you get this medicine in, it comes in. I actually think we have a video of me opening up the box. So we're opening up the box, and they give you medicine that you're taking, and then you have a trigger shot. And so between your ultrasounds, I believe we have a video of us about to go take an ultrasound, actually. All right, what is up?
Hey, y'all.
It is March the 7th. 2022, just in case you don't know the year. We just made it to our doctor, our fertility clinic. I guess that's what they're called.
Yeah.
And today we are doing an ultrasound. We are going to move forward with the IUI procedure. And so I've been on some medication for, I guess, the past 6 days, maybe, like almost the past week.
Yeah.
And we're going in for ultrasound to determine when I'm going to take my trigger shot. Basically, they're going to be able to look at maybe I think it's the uterine lining. I think that's what it's called. Follicle lining. I don't know. Some kind of lining. And that's going to determine, when I can take the trigger shot. And we'll probably, I'm assuming, go ahead and schedule for the procedure to happen. So, making steps. That's what we're doing. How do you feel about everything?
I feel good. It's exciting. I feel like this process has been like it's going by fast. I feel like it's going quicker than most because like we haven't really. I feel like this is the first time we've actually like been making steps like towards something. I think a lot of in the beginning was just trying to figure stuff out, and now we're in a process. It's more of an action kind of process, action phase, I guess. And so I'm excited. It's like a little nervous, but I think anybody would be. But ultimately, just really excited. Just the steps that we're taking.
So we go in for ultrasound and we get there and they're looking and they're like, oh, your body responded too well to the medicine. Again, very good stuff. Your body responded too well. You actually have, I can't remember how many eggs it was. I had like...
It was like 5 or 6 eggs.
5 or 6 eggs that has released, and we don't feel comfortable performing this procedure because if you fertilize all those eggs, we'll have like an octomom situation. And I'm like, and they're like, no big deal, we could try next month. But like, I didn't even know that was a possibility. So, again, when you get your hopes up for something like this is our first time doing IUI, we're so excited. And we go in, we thinking this is the appointment to tell us what day we could take the trigger shot and do the procedure. And they're like, actually not this time.
That's way another month.
And it's like, again, like every time we get closer and closer, it's like things like that happen.
Yeah.
And it's just so frustrating. So the first month we didn't even finish. Like it was just like a scratch and they're like, we can't finish.
Yeah.
And so
the second month they lowered the dosage on the medicine. Her body responded well to the lower dosage as well. And so we go in for the ultrasound. And I think there's maybe like 2.
I think it's 2.
Two
and
eggs.
they're like, we can do that.
We can do that. And so we're excited. We're on cloud 9 because it's like kind of just something that we can kind of grab onto, just hope. Like, oh, snap, like this is about to happen. It's the furthest we have been. Just in there.
It feels different because people know. And so we have people praying for us. Like, actually, just another side note, someone blessed us with the money because all up to this point we've been paying for everything just ourselves because no one knew, and it's not like we would have asked people to help us.
And insurance doesn't.
Yeah, insurance doesn't
our
cover
insurance doesn't
any
cover
fertility things. Most insurances don't. Like it's fertility, it's not like a necessity or whatnot. And so like it was just so sweet because we had been open about the process and people just were like, how much money have y'all spent? We want to sow into money y'all have already spent. Like it was just incredible blessings. People finding out that we were about to do IUI and they're like, how can we sow? So like it was just so exciting because it was like he said, like this is big time procedure and we have people praying, we have people sowing, people checking in.
We did it, and then now you just kind of play the waiting game.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, and so then you take the pregnancy test. And the first pregnancy test came back, and it was negative.
If you tried to get pregnant before, like PMS symptoms are the same as pregnancy symptoms. And so I think that's what's so frustrating. And then a lot of times, most of the medicine that you're taking to get pregnant when you're doing fertility treatments it actually magnifies pregnancy symptoms. And so one of the hardest parts about infertility is that you're having some of the effects of pregnancy without a pregnancy. Like, you feel like you're pregnant. And so a lot of my side effects feel like pregnancy symptoms, which when you are pregnant, that's exciting. I'm not saying it's not hard, but like I would have been like over the moon. And so, of course, like right before I'm taking the pregnancy test, I'm like thinking of all these symptoms, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be it. And it was not. And so obviously, discouraging, but we've been here before, and we're like two more rounds, which is so funny. It's always in rounds of 3. So, second time through, I remember going through the same thing.
Same exact thing.
Yes. And I remember, I feel like we had 2 eggs again that was released. And again, the pregnancy test was negative. And so here we were again at this 3-mark time where it's like we're about to do our last IUI procedure that we've paid for, because we paid for 3 at a time. And to be honest with you, like,
we weren't very optimistic going into this last one.
No. I, again, was at a really hard place with just, like, understanding where God was in all this. Because, obviously throughout all this, I'm processing with the Lord, praying to the Lord. I remember one day I was driving home from work and just like, God, what is wrong with me? Like, what's wrong with my body? Like, I wish like you would just tell us so we can at least fix the problem. And I just felt like the Holy Spirit said, there's actually nothing wrong with you. This is not about your body. This is about my timing. And I think because of that moment, I was just like, well, why am I putting myself through all this? Like, if nothing's wrong with me, why am I doing this IUI? And I think that was the moment I had before this last IUI where I was just like, I know we should do it because we already paid for it, so I would feel dumb not to do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also feel like, am I just putting myself through stuff for no reason? And so it was just really crazy because the day before our procedure, we actually went to go eat with our pastors. And it was supposed to be a meeting for church things. And so we got together and we went to go eat. And it was kind of crazy because the conversation kind of pivoted.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk anything church. We ended up talking about, they nonchalantly brought up, like, how y'all feeling about the procedure? And you could just see it on our faces of like almost just like, why are we doing this? Like, we don't know. Like, we don't know what we feel. We don't feel good about it. And of course, like, they're pastors, like, you dive deep into those hard things. And so probably about 20 to 30 more minutes, they took some time to encourage us, which I'm super grateful for. But to be quite honest, when you are in like valleys like that, like, I'm gonna just be real, it's like nothing that can be said. And as pastors, like, we could be saying truth, but like, it's just sometimes people are just walking through hard things, and what you say doesn't necessarily fix it. And that's kind of how we feel like, oh my gosh, like, so grateful to have people speak such life into us, but like, at the end of the day, we still don't know what's going on. We don't have any answers, and this has been almost, like, at this point, 3-year journey. Battling that, and then also battling, like, knowing God had the ability. Like, if he just snapped a finger, I could be pregnant. And just at a place where I was like, I believe in your ability, but now I'm questioning your intentions. Like, are you just withholding this from me? Which feels horrible to say, but like those are the things I'm battling, then thinking about him saying it's about my timing, so what's the point? Like, all these things are going through my head. And so, as you can imagine, all that encouragement sounded great, but I'm still warring through all of this. And I just remember we get in the truck after that, and we're just like looking at each other. And I saw your face throughout the whole conversation, and he just looked super discouraged. And I'm like, what did you think about all that? And I just remember him being like, I'm so grateful for them, and I'm so grateful for everything they shared, but like, I just don't know what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. And so there was kind of a feeling like not knowing what to do, because let the conversation encouraged, but it's like, all right, what's the step? And so I don't know, but there was like something like even in that conversation where I felt it's almost like I was having this whole other conversation in my head with God, and it was just
he does that a lot.
It was just kind of, I felt like what he even was saying was just that we just to keep be open. And I was in my mind like, what does that mean? And so it was just, hey, be open. And so, of course, I go on this rabbit trail, just thinking. And there was just things that we even just talked about, just like I think we shared before, before we even got married, just even about fostering and adopting. And, of course, my thoughts going into it was I'd rather have my own biological kids first and then adopt. And I didn't run any of that by God. That was just me.
I didn't run that by
that's
God.
just what I wanted.
That'll freak right there.
So, I mean, I thought it was still a good thing, but I think at that point I was at a place where it was maybe we got the order wrong, even how Jess talked about God's timing, maybe we got the order wrong of what he put in place in our hearts. Mm-hmm. What we perceived as something, we kind of took it and ran with it with our own kind of fleshly desires, which were good desires, but still it didn't line up with how he wanted it to be. When I process a little slower than Jess does, and I want to make sure I kind of have it almost all the way figured out before. I don't like talking about things that I don't necessarily know or hadn't fully kind of grasped the concept of. That's one of my flaws. Not many of them, but that's one of them. And so,
not many.
And so I just remember sharing that and just the look on Jess's face, and I was like, okay, obviously I did not hear from God.
No, because you gotta understand, we literally, he genuinely is sincere when he says he's having a conversation with me, but simultaneously having a conversation with the Lord. But I don't know he's having this conversation with the Lord. So when he shares with me what the Lord is sharing with him, it comes out of left field. So we're like, yeah, I'm still so discouraged. I don't know what to do. And we're talking like that. And then he looks at me. The Lord is saying we need to be open. And of course, I didn't even know what he meant by that. And he goes into Jess, what is our calling? And one of the gifts of infertility has been the Lord giving us clarity on what we're called to beyond just our desires. Meaning, obviously, in the last 3 years, we have been trying to grow our family, but the Lord reminded us in the midst of infertility, in the midst of us desiring our own kids, that our calling is to build families, period. And he was just showing us how just in our present life, not the life that we were praying for, but in our present life, the influence we had on, kids as young as first grade all the way to grandparents. We are people who love to come alongside families, and that's why we were in student ministry. That's why he oversees our kids' church. That's why we have families come to our home. That's why we have a range of ages that we minister to, because we believe in building families, and that's what we believe we're called to. Whether we work at a church or not, we will build families. And he just stopped and he was like, you know what our calling is? And he's like, we're called to build families. He's like, so let's just do that. Of course we want to, grow our family the way we have in our heart, but what if we're just going to build families through fostering? And even if those babies never stay with us, and we get to build their families, and help them reconcile what was once broken, let's do it. What if it's through adoption? What if it's he's saying all this and I'm just shook. First off, because it comes out of left field, but then second off, because I'm like, whoa, because the last time we talked about adoption, again, he said, that was in our hearts, but he just really, was like, well, maybe let's, have our own biological children. And so I didn't even know that was an option. And to be completely honest with you, I didn't even bring up adoption when I realized we were walking through infertility. I didn't even bring up adoption because I was like, I don't want us to see adoption as a cure for infertility. Mm-hmm. It is not something that we're going to run to because we didn't get what we wanted. I believe that adoption is a calling. And that is something that I felt like the Lord would ordain. And so I knew that I was too vulnerable to make a decision to adopt because I had so much brokenness due to infertility. And so think about all the healing I had just walked through, and then him bringing that up. I was at the point where I was like, bet. I've been saying that a lot, but I was excited and I was like, let's be open.